Yahoo, Prof here, and I satiated Paisley Marie for a while, and you're like, what does that mean? Well, we're past the 2 a.m. cutoff time for sitting down, and she's like, where the heck are you? We're making videos for you guys and gals out there, obviously. But I'm a little parched, so we got some Pocari Sweat. By the way, now available in retail. Costco and a bunch of these, like, California grocery stores I've never heard of. Refreshing. And for those of you out there, as this was coming to the US, they're like, oh, they make it different. No, they don't. It's literally the same stuff. And until COVID, it was literally shipped from Japan. In this case, though, because of Japan and not doing exports and imports, this is made in either Taiwan or Thailand. Let's find out here. There you go, Thailand. I believe the green tea is the same. And you're like, oh, you don't know those places apart. I think the opposite is true with the green tea, or the green tea may have been Taiwan for the Japanese stuff, because it's very easy to get stuff from Japan into Taiwan. There have been, like, the production of chalk. Like a very high quality chalk is now done in Taiwan, even though it's done by was formerly like a Japanese company. They're fairly easy to get. Like, if you're going to get anything out of Japan, the transition is not huge, let's put it that way. But I think once it switched to the new bottles that are much thinner, have these little tiny caps, just like these updated Pocari Sweat ones from Thailand. Like, this is much more of an American style cap compared to Japan. I think the green tea moved to Thailand as well. That you see me drink, at least. But yes, the ingredients are the same. Just how they put them on the label, basically, is different. Also, in the US now, we have serving size 1 bottle. In Japan, they can still specify per 500 milliliter bottle, like 2 servings. So you smart people out there on Instagram have to do this thing called math. I know. And yes, that was actually, if I recall, a Michelle Obama thing. If it is a singular container assumed to be consumed in one sitting, you have to have the full serving size on there. You could optionally have, like, what you can, or you have to have the full bottle, I should say. You could optionally have a serving size, but you would then have to specify doubles for everything. And some stuff does do that. Yeah, because they used to say that, like, what was it, a 20-ounce Coke was 2.5 servings or something, because a serving of a drink is considered to be 8 ounces. So yes, even a can of soda, how'd they, like, you're like, oh, soda went up in calories. No, it fucking didn't. The man, well, not the man, because man would be the government in this case. The corporate overlords are making you believe something it wasn't, unless you did math and nobody did math. And then you're like, oh, so then everybody's serving size was the same. No, they just changed it randomly for no reason. We're using the AVE, the original, with the copper upgrades. Now, mine has been modified. That video is hopefully coming out soon. I still have yet to do the follow-up on how this went. I'm actually forgetting, because I've just been using it for like 2 weeks. I'm actually forgetting what has happened with it. But I do need to put Loctite in these screws so it doesn't loosen up on me. It's actually gone far enough where I've actually broken off one of the pieces. That's not a bad thing. That's how these blades work. Like when they go dull, you don't have to put a whole new blade in. You just snap off a piece. Ooh, diggity dog. This is definitely not the original packaging for this, but for those of you that follow for our mouse content, you may have seen Squeers and I discussing a recent mouse acquisition. And that mouse acquisition, like I bought it on one of our video recordings, was, or shortly after, was this guy. Because this was one of the EC2 mice I was missing. And you're like, well, which one is it? They all look the same. And indeed they do. This is specifically the EC2-C, which is kind of weird because I didn't get the 2C because I bought the 3C and really wasn't impressed with it size-wise over the 2B, right? Or actually it'd be just EC2. Yeah, they went away from the letters, and then with the C's, they went back to the letters because they wanted to indicate that it was a new generation, right? They realized that, like, oh, we just call everything EC2. Nobody knows when we change shit. But being that I am literally only missing at least I'm pretty sure I'm only missing, like, the launch, because I have the EC2-A, so I'm missing, like, the original EC, like, I think there's a yellow one and a blue one. Missing those. I had the mono price edition in for review. That review has long since been lost. But I had to send it back because apparently that mouse was too expensive for me to keep at the time. Sad face. So what came out of this, though, was my unhinged talk with Squeers about the follow-up to our favorite EC series mouse. And that mouse is the EC2 Tyloo. And that is a red mouse with a gray cable. You can see how used it is. Those feet have seen some wear. Look at the front foot. Yeah, so I use this bad boy. Tyloo. Normally I would put a black cable tie on this, but because it's a red mouse, I had to put the red cable tie. I realized that scroll has discolored a little bit. It used to be as white as these guys are. It's even a little bit sticky already. Wow. The rubber is already starting to break down on this scroll wheel. Dang. You can see it's like... Usually that takes 10 years or more. Please don't tell me it's been 10 years since the EC2 Tyloo came out. That is something... And that isn't like me getting sticky on it, for those wondering. This is actually like the oils, the petroleum oil seeping out of the plastics, effectively. And I forget what, there's some sort of, you can treat this with chemical stuff, but that's normally to take it off. It's like if there's rubber coating on top of this plastic, you would actually like neutralize the rubber effectively. But that entire thing is rubber. So I don't know that's an option. Womp womp. But as you can see, EC2 Tyloo, they went away from calling it after the B, they went back to EC2. So it's very interesting that they went back to the C with this guy, right? Now, even more interestingly, with the C, this got a sensor upgrade. This got more clicks in the scroll wheel. You know, like it's like 23 or 24 versus 16. Like here. Conk, 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 conk. Giant gaps in there. Great for switching weapons, mind you. But actually just as tactile, if not more, but more steps. And you got the newer sensor in here, right? Cloth cable versus rubber cable. You got that really inclined rubber coming off the end there. you know, to keep it off the table. They got the newer plug from that you'll see on the CW series or the DW series. That's their wireless ones. However, this guy actually not all that used. There's like a couple nicks out of the feet. What is this, then, you might ask? Well, this is a very interesting time in the EC2 timeline. It is, depending where you look, some of these call this the EC2-B V2, and some of them call this the EC2 V2, right? I could only find online new white versions of this because it was only available in a red and white, because the EC2C was only available in black, right? So the optional colors were actually available in you know, like the EC2, and this is the red edition. That's the RE part, right? Why Zowie likes to put the thing on the cable, which is the thing you might replace, the thing you might cut off, and not the bottom of the mouse, I'll never freaking know. Oh, and I can feel it. And the reason why they did this, so many people are so used to the EC2, and especially the B. That thing was around for forever, right? This went back to the much like the lessened clicks wheel. Like it's a looser, like the classic wheel that was in the EC2 and EC2-B. And technically the wheel isn't the same between those. God, that's a sticky scroll wheel. I'll have to see if, like, I actually need to look up what this compound is. I know it'll work on this because they use them for what they call in BMW's sticky button syndrome. Because the soft touch rubs or you know, starts leaching the oils out and becomes sticky when you press it. And when they refurbish cars, they have to undo that. Basically, they don't make it not sticky, and often they have to repaint them because of it. I'm not too worried about that with my mice. I just, because often the color is the plastic, so don't worry about that too much. The one way you can tell between, and this is the red, if you notice, it is not the Tyloo, which is interesting. I don't know if he no longer played for them or what, but what the other thing I want to get into is this was the EC2 Tyloo. Not that there were not other mouse companies and manufacturers that branded mice for gamers back in the day, right? I'm not saying that didn't happen, but shortly after this was a thing, right, this Tyloo edition, what did Razer do? What did Razer do? And what Razer did is they made the Faker edition. And I think it's because this specific one sold so well. And this was by far, this was the most up-to-date, the latest, like the final model of the EC2. Like before it went to the EC2C, and then later, I wouldn't, like these were kind of out at the same time-ish, right? This was out first, and that came out after. And it came out too because they changed certain ways that this felt and played. God. See, what's going to happen is I'm going to get it on my scrolly finger. I'm going to click, and it's going to go on my click. So basically, like the way this feels, they switched it up to this, and they updated it, right? Those side clicks are much tighter. Look at all the play in those. Way tighter scrolling. Look at that. So they switched the side buttons back to what they were. This has the updated sensor, though. So you got the advantages of the updated sensor from the EC2C, but they reverted everything, probably for everybody that was so used to, maybe not the Tyloo specifically, but this generation of the mouse. With these, like, I wouldn't call them squishy. There's just way more travel. It goes way into the body. Whereas these feel like little tack switches in here. Whereas these feel like you actually have some purpose to it. As I said, though, you can tell the difference between these because this has white buttons, that has red buttons, and this has a braided cable. Whereas this still has the Zowie rubber cable. My Miko, like one of the first Zowie mice I reviewed, had this exact connector on it. I don't know if the rubber is the same for all this time. It looks damn the same. So because people were so used to this when they came out with this, though well technically better, people did not necessarily appreciate the changes to what they were used to, you know, because they want consistency. When you're certain things, when you're playing professionally or you're doing them professionally, you find a thing you like and you just want to keep using it. Why the fuck change it? You know what I mean? And people were probably like why change from this to this? So they made that, which has the raised cable. See, look at that. Just like that. But they went back to the lower click, classic Zowie scroll wheel, and the much more traveled side buttons. I'm not going to necessarily say that's better. These just feel very low travel tack switchy. I don't know what clicks this has, or what the wear is, but they're definitely different switches, but they also sound different than a little bit higher pitched over here. A little higher pitched. Those sound very similar. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think happened because the Faker Death Adder V3 Pro came out not that long after the Tyloo edition, which is such a weird thing because the timing, like they're competing on like what would be like one of the best wireless mice at the time. And it's wireless versus like Zowie didn't even have, starting about here, because it was the EC2-CW is what I have, so it's a wireless version of this. Then there's an EC2-DW, which would be a generation after this guy. It's actually like that one there, because this is kind of like an in-between. And what I mean by that is, if we go here, it goes BV2C, right? And then if you go down here to the generational thing, right, it goes, and this is newest, compare with previous versions, EC2C, EC2, EC2-B, EC2-B Divinia, have that, EC2-A. They don't even have EC series over there, or the Evo, or the etc., right? But if we click on the BV2, we may have showed this in a previous video, only available in a red or white, right? White is the one you'll find online from outside the US for $150, and that's probably pre-tariff now. I wanted a red one, right? And if we look at compare to previous versions, EC2C is considered a previous version. So there you go, EC2 to EC2C, 3360, 3360, rubber, paracord, regular weight, reduced weight. And looks like the V2 went back to, and we noticed that with the side switches, went back to the old body. So you have the old encoder, the old scroll encoder, the 16-step, see? That has literally been the same. I mean, I shouldn't say it's been the same, but because we go all the way back to the original EC2-A, is very different. the scroll wheel shape at least. I don't know about the encoder. But we went back to the body people were used to with the scroll wheel people were used to, but the updated cord, and like I said, updated sensor, I think it is the one from the C, even though they were already using the 3360 and the B and the 2, you know. But this guy being this weird enigma of like, hey, we made a new mouse, but our pro/enthusiast users, like, I wonder if the reason why these are so hard to find is because they only made enough for their pros that effectively wanted to use this or that, but they didn't make any more because they made that, right? So they're like, well, fuck, we got to make a new one for them. The other weird thing is at the same time that they're doing this, if we go to EC series, and there's EC2-B and EC2-D. So C, this is the C series. This is the wireless version of the EC2C. Or there's the EC2C. EC2CW there, right? And then there is a DW. So it'd be like A, B, C. Remember how I said for a bit there, they got rid of the letters in a generation. This thing was pretty heavy. You know, 24-step EC. So it's got the C series because it's a CW. The shape feelings are not the same. Well, the shape feelings are not the same between the A and the B. The A is closer to the EC, right? And I don't remember if the Evo is a smaller version or not, but at some point they made the stuff that spawned in the EC2. But those are very much the same shape scaled down. The EC3C, however, is they like lop off the ass. It's actually not much. See, it's 61 millimeters in width still. 61 millimeters, 61 millimeters here. So they don't actually make it a smaller mouse. Like, see, this is 64 and 64. That means this should be like probably 58 or something, you know. And it actually has a wider butt, but it doesn't have a wider butt because what they actually do is if we draw a line here, that is up across here. If we go like, can I draw a box? I don't know why I can't draw a box. This website's not letting me draw a box. But if we like go here, this would be a much higher point there, right? So if we zoom on in, the mouse isn't actually any wider. It's just that the width is being measured further forward. If you measured that same spot on the EC2, it would be the same width as the EC3. And then because it's shorter, that slope has changed. You might be able to see that here. Versus, yeah, it's there you go. EC2-DW. I didn't really like. I did buy a what was their new mouse that was only available in the wireless? U2. I did buy the U2. But the only update from the U2 to the U2-DW, from my understanding, is that they have the 4K sensor. You can buy the U2 or the DW, the 4K, not the 4K sensor, sorry, 4K receiver. And what I mean by can is if you hit that subscribe button and follow, one of them boxes there is actually that receiver. So, and what do we got down here? You know, we have comparison between the specifications. No, they abandoned the history. Like, why aren't they comparing it to the CW? You know, like they did with the previous wired EC2s. From my understanding, if you really must have the EC2 shape, now screw that. Get yourself an E1 from Vaxi. if you must have a wireless EC2 shape, this is what you want. I have heard that the DW is better than the CW. And in the case of the EC2, it is not just the sensor. But yeah, so it's this weird thing of, and Squares did not believe me until he saw this chart. He's like, why would they update everything, put it into, and that's part of the reason why I didn't get the wired version of the C, the EC2C, is because I had the EC3C, right? And then I got the EC2CW, which they sold as effectively this same mouse wireless. It, however, is not. The structure is quite a bit different under here. I think the sensor is even different because for wireless, I want to conserve. 3360 is still a great sensor. Not great for wireless. This guy I had to get used. I think it was 80. I talked him down from 90 or 95. Thank you, dude, on eBay. It will go to a very nice home in my collection. These feet are very flat, especially that front one. I kind of wonder what... They are worn around the edges, though. So I kind of wonder what kind of pad this previous owner played with. You can see some wear on the back foot around the edges, a little bit on the front foot. Nothing like... yeah, so that's another thing that you can tell here is they went to the Virgin PTFE feet, which they didn't even have on the C series, right? Because that hadn't like taken off yet. It's a higher pitched hollow noise on the EC2-B V2 is how it's listed on their website. It could also be an EC2 V2 because realistically you can tell by the color it is a V2 of that mouse specifically. Yeah, it's just a little bit higher pitched. Feels the same. And no, I'm not really willing to rip them apart. I mean, I have done it before. I just don't know that I have enough extra feet for all of these in order to do such thing to make sure they're all together. Otherwise, check out forums and Tech Power Up. I used to, and we used to try getting, if there are any, mouse companies out there that are still willing, because every now and then we cycle through some of you that are willing to support the channel, send ones out. But then, the marketing, like the people who run the PR change, or they hand it off to a third-party marketing firm, and like Rocket, just before they switched to Turtle Beach, switched to like a thing where it's like, oh, like they need a certain number of impressions, otherwise you're like that sort of stuff off the list, etc. And you had to do specific things, like you have to use certain hashtags and all this stuff. And then once the Turtle Beach bought Rocket, my contact had already left, but I had a contact still, but it was like a firm, like a PR firm that it switched to. I think they went away from that once they like merged the brands together, right? And I don't have one there. I'm still interested in Rocket's current stuff. They have an interesting mouse. Never once, despite me featuring Zowie all over the channel, and I don't know that they've ever really done stuff like that, besides sponsoring pro gamers. Obviously, they do that. But I don't know that they've ever sent too much for review directly. I think I remember Rocket Jump Ninja getting some of his from maybe, I don't think it was Ad Ice. It was another like bigger retailer, like electronics retailer down in Australia. That is so weird. Maybe it's because more gummy that it's breaking down sooner. I wonder. But yeah, thought I'd share this. This, at least from my experience, is pretty rare because it's this. This was already the transition for Zowie from wired to wireless. Like there is no EC2-D, right? That's the DW. They never made a wired variant of it. So even this was hard to get because this is discontinued, right? I bought it used off of Amazon. It shipped from Canada out of nowhere. I think because he had one of every mouse, that it might be from one of the trial kits where Zowie would ship it out, or that maybe they had multiple trial kits after like this was no longer like this was a discontinued product or something. Because that seller basically had one of every mouse and was selling it all for 25 USD. I think it was 25 USD. Steal for this mouse. And realistically, thanks Mr. eBay seller, because the white edition knew of this was going for 150, the fact that you sold me, from what I believe to be the rarer red one, I think it was 80 plus shipping for a little bit of a used one. Hey, I'll take it. It's probably as much or more than this was new, but this was the only copy of the red one I could find on the interwebs, at least in the US. So I'm happy to take this into the collection and have this weird EC2-B V2 or EC2 V2, depending on where you look, and have it living in the collection here as technically the newest wired edition, even though they took this and like reverted it back to its previous configuration. If anybody knows why specifically, like my guess is that there were people out there, either enough people in the community or they had pros that wanted to keep using this guy, but there was no stock, basically, right? And they had to do a small run of these to get there. And if you notice, it is slightly different enough. Braided cable, red buttons. You kind of see that with like the Overwatch edition from the Chroma. It's a Death Adder, Razer Death Adder Chroma to the Death Adder Elite. And those are Overwatch editions. The pattern changes ever so slightly, and the buttons go from black to orange, or orange to black. Like enough to make it a different mouse. And this may be because it's not a Tyloo. It's just the red edition now. But I have very fond memories, and you might be able to tell that by how much wear this mouse has seen, of playing with the Tyloo EC2. Questions, comments, throw them down below if you guys know any more, or have stories to share, or if you guys have like mice that is like, you know, this guy's perfectly good condition. There's going to be one coming in that's like not in great condition, but it's the only one I've found of this model. It's from it's a Corsair is it Raptor Gaming, because that's who Corsair bought to get their mouse line. And it's actually still branded Raptor, even though it says Corsair Gaming just like printed on it. It is all goopy, because that's what you did back in the day. It was all the soft touch, and the cable actually split. But I've not seen another one of those in a hot minute. So I told the guy, yeah, I'll take a chunk off, and I'll still pick it up from you. If you guys have mice that I don't have, or you might have a different version, and you want to send them my way, can't pay for everyone, because for those that haven't seen the collection, we'll have to go take a look sometime. But if you have no need and you want it to have a good home, let me know. At some point, maybe we'll have to look into, because I know some of the YouTubers out there have like mini museums. I'm sure it's just to write off taxes, but I wouldn't mind doing that as well for my collection, because we're well over 100 mice now. And that is why with certain lines of these that at least the ones I enjoy, like your Death Adder, EC2, I try to pick up as many of them as I can. G502, yeah, I was doing that kind of for a while, but they're like basically not different. And you're like, these aren't not different. Yeah, but like I guess I care, because I actually use these. Usually if a new version just has a better sensor, either I won't pick it up, or when I do pick it up, I will give the older censored version to somebody who can actually use it. you know, rather than it just sitting there. Because if those are literally the same mice, same color, same everything, except, oh, we went from a 3310 to 3360, and it's, instead of being black, it's dark gray, like what's happened with Rocket. Or when there was the 403, right, and then they went to the 403 Hero, or the 703 to the 703 Hero. You know, not too worried about those. But some of these other niche ones, if anybody can contribute, I appreciate it. Or if you have some connections that could get us some models in to review, we'll gladly take a look at them. We'll gladly take a crack at them. I mean, I've been reviewing mice now for probably 2 decades. You know, both in directly to manufacturers in written form, directly to manufacturers again, then in written, and now video form. And it is something that I you know, like, really like, because it is something that has a design to it in both, like, the cable and the shape is something very personal, right? That is something about a mouse that there can be technical differences, but in the reality, it is like a human interface device. So if you don't like using it, or it is uncomfortable to you, or, you know, whatever, basically, it doesn't matter how good the guts are if you don't vibe with it, right? And right now, some of you have been asking, you might be able to see by all that grease on there, I've been enjoying the Sony Inzone. Whoop, it's working. I didn't realize it was on. It is quite a unique shape. You can palm it. Squares was using it, and he was actually, like, properly palming it, getting it up in there. Especially if you claw, you can do that. You're like, how's that a unique shape? Like, somebody was telling me this isn't a unique shape. It's got a big badonkadonk for being as short as it is. Okay, I don't have an E1. I do have the E1. Sorry, not E1. The NP01. So NP01's got that's flat. Big badonkadonk this way. This one's got a big badonkadonk that away. Right? And you don't see that generally on a mouse that is that short. So it's a unique shape, and it's a good one. My only complaint so far has been the scroll wheel. I feel like it's a little slippery because it doesn't have rubber. And then the middle click is a little bit easier to push than some. So I feel like I have to put more force on it to scroll to make sure I don't slip. And sometimes I click. That may just be getting used to stuff, because I can use this all day. Like, you can just nick that in and it scrolls, right? Maybe a little bit less so on the older one. And the click requires quite a bit of force. So, but yeah, I played another entire night. Once I resolved, or found out I could still launch my game for Call of Duty, even though it was saying I didn't have enough security. Played a whole night. I don't know, it was, you know, 2 hours plus. No, actually 3 hours. I played all of Land Show with this, 3 hours, which I don't normally, like, sometimes if I'm not enjoying it or I'm not into it, you know, I'll only play for a half hour or an hour or whatever. And not once did I think that mouse was, because sometimes with a new mouse, you'll be like, I can't play because I'm not playing up my game. I got to go back to my normal mouse. That thing didn't stand in the way. EC2 is always going to be a great shape. I've showed this before, but part of the issue is that it hits, because it goes all the way flat to the surface effectively, right? And when you turn, this bites into this part, because if you're palming it, you're already hitting there. And then when you sweep this way, this part goes into here. Part of what's been fixed on the E1, and why maybe you EC2 guys out there should give an E1 a try. It might not look all that similar, but it is. You got a cart in the E1 video. I start chopping it up into like, hey, we got to hold it right here and look at the front clicks. They're basically the same shape. But what they do is got this little upturned lisp at the butt. And a lot of Axima's mice have that. What that does is that just lifts this part of your hand off the surface that little bit to give you a little bit better like movement, and because you're not your hand isn't flat on the surface basically. And then this butt is rounded off so you don't, when you need to curl to extreme angles, this isn't poking into your hand here, and then this like it's all just nice and rounded off. They kind of just kind of clip that butt a little bit, I just swooping that in a little bit better, and then adding in that that little just upturn. So if you're an EC2 guy and you swear nothing else can replace it, give this a shot. It's from the former designer of the EC2 from when they were at Zowie for like over 15 years. So this is the true proper successor, if you ask me. Hopefully we'll see you in future videos. We got some to come. This is going to be a great one to have in the collection. I'll have to get it out every now and then. I just think it's interesting that we changed things, we improved, but then, like, gaming community is a fickle beast. If something works for them, they'd rather just keep buying it. Just that's why the Death Adder V3, it's a Mamba, guys. It's not a Death Adder. And I guess the V4 would fall into that as well. I'm not saying it's a bad mouse. It's just not a Death Adder. Questions, comments, throw them down below. Hopefully we'll see you in future gaming mouse and peripheral videos. Peace.